joint group event for a while now. And what we're going to be doing at that time is really just talking about career progression and the product career path and what that can look like. We actually have one individual who's a member with us, really attends a lot of our events, and is actually a board member for our chapter. His name's Mark Mitchell, and he'll be on that panel. So we definitely would love for it to be able to have you attend. It's going to be an online session. The first part will just be introducing those individuals that are coming in on the panel, and then the last half is really all of us being able to ask questions or like just kind of engage in conversation around things that are most important for us. So go on ahead and please, we would love to have you. And I posted the link in the chat, so that's the direct link. There's a lot of events going on, so I highly recommend not only that event, but just check out all the other events that are going on, see if maybe there's any others you want to sign up for. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla. Caitlin, would you like to talk about Richard? Yeah.
Caitlin O'Connor here, and I'm super excited to share that we are hosting a Lunch and Learn series. So the idea is that we know that you're stuck at home, although some of the restrictions are lifting, and we want to be able to provide you a break from work, but while you're still increasing your professional skills. So Richard Frederick has actually offered to conduct complimentary courses. He's going to do one a month. Right now we have 3 scheduled. And it'll be, first one kicks off May 8th at noon. So we do have it scheduled on all of our calendars for an hour session, but the idea is that it's a 45-minute session, so you don't really have to commit to a complete and full hour. Richard has, he's a PMP and actually has over 30 years of experience in educating business professionals of all skill levels. And he provides best practices for both project management and business analysis. He actually does do this for a living as well. And his acute awareness of the emerging trends in technology is really paramount to learning new skills while you're refining your established ones. So May 8th is going to kick off with dashboards and robots, and we strongly encourage everyone to join. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Caitlin. So I will now introduce Harish. I'm going to let you do your own deep introduction so that you can, talk about yourself for just a minute, but he is going to go over the introduction to user experience for us today. Over to you. Thank you. We can see your screen. Oh, and just actually while you're setting up, just so you guys know, Cliff will be monitoring the chat. So if you do have any questions as Harish is going, you can definitely add some questions there, but I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Also, to add to that, could everybody please type in a real name for your name? Thank you.
Okay. So, hello everybody. My name is Harish Beeram. I work at Agile Thought, and I've been in the field of user interface, user experience for almost 15 years. Even before the term user experience came in, we had a group of user experience. That was just when the field was emerging in 15 years ago. So I've worked in various companies in the Tampa Bay area, like Raymond James, Blooming Brands, Clarifier, in the roles of UI, UX, architect, and mobile and accessibility. Right now, I'm also passionate very much about accessibility area. So I'm also an advisory board member in Suncoast Developer Guild, where we provide some learning and coaching. So just my brief background, my education, my bachelor's in engineering was done in India, southern part of India. And then I moved to, as soon as the education bachelor's degree was done, I came here for master's in mechanical engineering degree. So I did that, and my thesis was published in a journal for structural and multidisciplinary optimization. Unfortunately, at that particular point, I did not have a green card or citizenship, so I was not eligible for some of the mechanical engineering opportunities. So my option was to transition to software or something like that. Um, so when I shifted to software, I worked in various technology sectors and verticals like healthcare, uh, financial services, Raymond James, Agile Thought, and also Agile Thought is more consulting. So right now I'm working at Agile Thought and working with big auditing firms, and also have experience in the hospitality industry. So I've gone through many verticals, but the user experience field is much more uh, closer to me, and I love the user experience field so much that everything I see, I think about the user experience of that particular thing. So today's agenda, we are going to talk more about what is user experience mean, and the deeper meaning of user experience, and the three key areas or takeaways that you can focus on user experience right after this session. You can start applying those principles and practices in your projects and ask the right questions whenever there is a need. So uh, the first area is going to be friction in the user experience. We will discuss what friction is about and how to mitigate friction. Then the next areas we are going to look at myths and pitfalls, because there are a lot of common myths and we have to debunk them and say, hey, that's just a myth. The actual fact is different and the truth is different. And similar with the pitfalls, where we need to avoid these pitfalls so that the experience of the users get much better. Then we are going to look into the design principles, and that's the last area that we are going to talk, because there is so much. This is 1 hour 30 minutes of talk along with Q&A. It might be 1 hour 45 minutes, but there's so much of information that it is going to be felt like, oh, it's overwhelming. But if you, and this is the reason why we wanted to give you the top 3 areas we are going to discuss: friction, myths and pitfalls, and design principles. And once you remember these 3, then you can go back and research into, okay, what was that principle that we talked about in the introduction to UX? Or it's just Gestalt principle or Fitts law or something. Then you can research more and bring that into practice in your day-to-day work environment. So the first one, let's get started with the user experience and friction. So to understand user experience, we need to think like a user. It's very easy to say to think like a user, but it is very difficult to actually be a user. So what I mean is, if we say these are the users that we have for a system or application or a platform or anything that we are developing, designing, and we are architecting, we are re-engineering or anything like that, to be able to, because the users have perspectives of the system, right? So I came up with the user is, for me, an acronym right now. User is somebody who understands the systems. System could be an application, it could be a mobile app or a web app, or it could be a product, a physical product. That means a hardware product or something like that. Anything, just categorize it as a system. And who wants to understand, or who understands it already entirety, it's in its entirety. And then who reacts to the system, because that person, that user around the world is using that system and trying to interact with the system and reacting and expecting the system to behave in such and such way. And the expectations of the user has to be met or exceeded. That's when the user experience goes higher. So what is the user experience designer's role is, yes, you have a higher perspective of these, who the users are and what they are trying to do. But even a user experience designer is a user. In terms of this acronym, is U stands for understands, again, S for systems, but empathetically understands it, and in its entirety, and empathetically is more stressed, of course, because the designer is designing the system, or a group of designers are designing the system, then they definitely understand it entirely. But the empathy is the word that I would like to underline, and this has been stressed in the UX field a lot more in the last few years, that having empathy towards the user is the success for the product and service. And response. So there is a difference between the reaction and the response, right? So the reaction is the instinct, and it's instantaneous. So the users are touching and interacting the system, and they have interacted with the system that it did not allow them to do something easily or friendlily, or they were stuck or something like that. So the user experience role at that particular point, the user experience designer's role at that particular point is to look at the system from the holistic perspective as they are looking at it right now, but also do this, become the user. So in the holistic role, just from the higher perspective, it's very, very difficult because you're disconnected with the system. Yes, you're designing, but you're still disconnected. Look at the connection with every user. And it could also be a connection between different parts of the system and everything. So unless the designer makes sure that the designer or is testing being a user, the system is not going to be designed in such a way that it feels friendly enough. So, who do we think users are, right? So users are not just person. It could be a person, but it could be multiple persons, which is people, right? So users are people with low level of understanding of the system, medium level of understanding of the system, or highest level, which we call super users, right? The super users tend to ask more functionality, more for the system can do. But we are going to talk about that edge cases in the future slides. But just for now, remembering that the users is not just one person, it's multiple people, and it's almost a population. If there is something like irs.gov, right, or anything like that, it is the whole population. It's not just one, a group of people. So user can also be systems and application to application contact. So that's typically it start off like that. User is not just a human being or a group of people. It could be system as well. So the challenges are not everybody has the same needs, and not everybody will use the system at the same time, at the same level of expertise as a super user level. So what does this mean? This means catering with different personas. We are going to talk about personas also in the future slide, but just giving a tip of the iceberg in the personas at this point. So why should we care about the UX, right? If we don't care about the UX, the system might not function as expected, and the experience might be not so good. So the users will shy away from using the system. So until recently, or a decade ago, 15 years ago, or something like that, it was good that the systems were doing something that people were doing manually. So there was an application that was created. Now it is no longer manual. You can do it, but it is on the computer. At that particular point, I'll have a screenshot from a few years ago how an application was looking like, right? It's no longer having. It's no longer that it is doable in the software. It's no longer that it is doable in the computer, but it has to be easy now. Easy is no longer a option. Easy is a requirement. And user experience, a lot of companies thought that they can get away without investing in the user experience, and they have lost in the marketplace versus other companies that have kept up. So there are companies that have kept up with the user experience have succeeded, and the companies that did not keep up with the user experience suffered. So this is one of the key reasons why the top companies that you think of now have user experience is one of the main bread and butters of their earning potential. So even for our professional working environments where we have products and services and applications and systems, user experience, if it's suffering, you will see a decline in existing population. Maybe you'll get new revenue with the new clients who has not yet understood that your competitors. And if your competitors are offering a better user experience product along with the other things that you see here, along with the performance and security, that's when the whole experience of the product becomes much friendlier. So these three major components that we talk here are user experience, security, and performance. When your products and services are doing that, your organizations, or if you are a business owner, if your product is doing this, then it is definitely having a huge chance of success. So the whole three components become one unit of experience, our experience, which is user. The reason why I like our experience is then we are not differentiating between the user and us, and but this is a little bit away from the industry where they think it's our experience than user experience, because again, when we think it's our experience, the empathy grows. So let's look into the details of what is user experience. Any questions so far? If no questions, I'll proceed to the next step. So what is user experience? First of all, the acronym X stands for experience, right? And some people in the earlier stages did not understand where is the user experience, right? So X is the emphasis of the X after the E. So that's why the acronym is user experience. And most of the time, whenever you spell anything with X, it generally doesn't give some sound to the E, right? But it's still there. So what is user experience? Is the emotions, the moments, the ideas, the thoughts, the memories, all those interactions with those products and services and whatever. So here, a bicyclist is having an experience, a great experience with riding the bike, a music player, right? A car, an experience, something else, and then anything, even with here, skydiving is also an experience. It's the experience of what they created with the product of taking you to the highest altitude of 10,000 feet or something, and then letting you do that. So when these memories are good, it creates a lasting impressions on the users, which is again us. It creates lasting experience on us that we recommend those experience for other people. Let's say you have learned a bike and then your partner never learned a bike. You say, hey, it's so fun. Once you get over the hurdles of learning the bike, yes, you are going to have a challenge where you will fall a few times, but just persevere in the face of that falling. Then once you learn to balance it, the experience of riding a bike is so amazing, right? Same as with the music player, any product or service, right? So it's the ideas, the emotions, the memories, those moments create. So when our goal is, since we are technologists and we are looking from the user experience side, is to provide the greatest experience that they can have with the product and services. So if they don't have the greatest experience, if the memories are challenging, which I'm using the word challenging where it is in almost like mixed feelings, they don't get a good feeling about it, then the usage of that application, of that device, of that hardware or software, anything could be going down slow and steadily. So user experience can be this, right? A frustrating user experience, or it could be something like this, a very happy and enjoyable experience. So the journey of user experience designers is to take something, if it's already at that level of 0 out of 5, and completely get rid of that and move to the level of 5. This person who is deliberately designing that experience from this point of completely negative, well, towards it, from a 0 or 5 to completely awesome experience and completely excellent. This is the job of, I don't even want to say a job, this is the life of a user experience designer, researcher. Even with the business analysts or product owners, you have so much in common with the user experience in day-to-day application development that it is inevitable that you will not talk about your user experience. So it is definitely, you're going to talk about the user experience in your professional life, right? So what are the desired results of having a great user experience, right? When the great experience is there, the good news spreads fast. Let me give you an example of Zoom, which we are currently using right now. The user experience of the Zoom is so good compared to the other competitors in the market that even though people think maybe there are security flaws here and there, but they still love using Zoom because of the customizations and easy to use experience, right? And in 2 months, if you take 45 days of an average, Zoom users from 10 million grew to 200 million. Why? That's a huge amount of user base, right? And people are buying the accounts, right? And this is my personal bot account because I love this experience that I can keep sharing the knowledge and information and have my own personal account that is so easy to use. So good news spreads fast and increased sales, and Zoom has already seen increased sales for it, right? So that's the happy users. Then the satisfied users, what does the satisfied users do? It's loyalty. They keep the loyalty with, they don't change unless there is a requirement, there is a need, or there is something else that they want is not met by your product or service. So my own example is using of an iPhone from 2007, 8-ish. When I first saw, I think I saw it in 2007, late in 2007, and early in 2009, I purchased the iPhone because it took me an year long of like, can I afford it? Do I want to save for it? And then after a lot of deliberation, but I fell in love 1 year before I bought it. So sometimes people have money to spend and they will be able to spend immediately as soon as they love it, right? So since 10, 12 years, I've kept my loyalty with them, even though my friends have showed me Android, one of the best Android devices. For me, it was meeting and exceeding my needs. So I did not need to explore other options. I just keep my loyalty with my phone, Apple having my phone, right? Because of the user experience that I'm hooked into it. The next one is a few support requests, right? I don't even remember if there was any challenge. So using the iPhone for so many years, I never recall that I have created a support request for Apple that the phone is not doing this, which is required for me. That means the enormous user base that they have, they already get all the feedback that probably I will encounter. So glad I didn't have to do that. However, there is also your user base that will give ideas to improve the product and services than being a complaint, right? So, and everything, we have to take it as constructive feedback. We cannot take it as criticism and ignore that, thinking that it's a complaint. We just have to think in a different way. Oh, it's a different idea. Oh, yes, the system doesn't do this, but we can improve it. Then the other one is productive. So happy, satisfied, and productive. When they are productive users, that means it is going to be so easy for them to promote your product. Somebody recommend your product and service for somebody else. So that's one thing. So how to create best user experience, right? Any questions so far? So let's see an overall view of user experience, right? And how to create a best user experience. So in levels of creating the best experience is designing and deliberately designing for the better user experience. So I call it 4 levels of designing for great user experience. One is the blueprint, the drawings and the sketches that before a building is built, there is a blueprint of that building. And that building has to get permits based on that blueprint. And we all know, we all have seen surveys and blueprints of buildings in the past. Then the next, similar is the case with the current UX with designing with the drawings and sketches with the level 1. And then the level 2 is UX design goals and testing these design goals. So that's the level 2 where you design something like designing any feature. Let's say you're designing a login and account screen, right? So you have to create, in my UX practice that I do, or I teach other or coach other people, I say for anything, create 3 options. A login, not just one login screen on the left side, right side, a logo on this or that. So come up with 3 options for even one screen. That could be overwhelming, but once you practice it, it makes you become so objective than getting married to one option. Because if you have only designed one option and the user said, no, we don't like it, then it hurts your feelings, right? And also like you start questioning your own self of, do I know design? Do I do why am I not getting this, right? So before that disappointment happens, start having 3 options for any screen and start showing, do you like this, this, or this? Or if it is not meeting anything, then what can we do best? Do I bring a different idea into this mix? Because if you show them 3 options, there are chances that they will like one option of that best than the other 2. And then there are chances that they will like some minor features in the other option. And then you can bring those 2 features into those, from the 2 others that you're going to discard, you're going to bring them to the best option that they have selected. So this gave you a better chance of better design in the level 2, where you are testing with the users with all the goals. Then the level 3 is achieving these goals, right? And with inclusion, we are going to talk about inclusion, which is more like accessibility, access, making sure that everything is created with accessibility in mind as well, and encouraging your clients and your own company to create anything with accessibility in mind. So that's level where you have achieved the required user experience design goals, but also now you are going beyond and saying to your, so if you're an agency and your agency is working with a client and giving them user experience of the website, while you do that and you are saying, hey, do you know, since you're a public company and you're going to have some kind of e-commerce, it's kind of required by the law to have accessibility, and then here is we can help you with that. It also helps you with upsell, right? So if you thought the client is hiring only for you to UX design test and give them, but now this is a chance to upsell your services. Again, this is not to it's the right thing to do from the government perspective, from the law perspective, and also it's the right thing to that it expands a lot more into different areas. Then innovating on innovation. So if this was the innovation of your client that you have successfully achieved with the level 3, that they are very happy with your product and service design, then the next level is going and innovating and starting giving them more ideas to make the product and service better. So they would like to invest more on improving and innovating the existing innovation. So that's the level 4. Very few companies go to the level 4, but there are, right? Apple is one of the examples, right? They did not stop at the Apple iPhone 3. They are now at iPhone 10. So they keep on innovating on innovations. They change the hardware. They do whatever it takes to make sure the application, the phone is great. So what exactly in UX is needed to achieve the desired result, right? So if you recall our desired result, the desired result were happy, satisfied, and productive users. So if we take an example of Amazon right now, Amazon has invested so much on the user experience and so many areas that it had made people more productive, even working from home. They are able to get all their groceries along with whatever items they always get. And Amazon is like a new internet account. Now, I cannot say this with Netflix, but with Amazon, I cancel my Netflix and we just rely on Amazon because it can give movies that will also ship products and groceries to us, right? So what is making them the number 1 company and in the world and the number 1 billionaire is they are making users happy, they are making users satisfied, and they are making users productive. So not having to go and shop around. And we all know about online shopping, right? But if this is similar case with your product, how are you going to make sure it is there, right? So most of the products, the main thing is it valuable product? Does it have value for what the product and services that are being created? It could be applications, mobile site or mobile app, whatever it is, right? Once it is valuable, then it is useful. Is it useful? Then if it is useful, is it usable? Right? Is it usable? Then it is findable. Like it needs to also have, rather than having Amazon has a big mega menu. And if you try to just navigate from one menu to other menu, go to the home and home gardening products and go, if you try to go through the menuing system, you will be wasting time, right? So what most people do, they just search. So the product and service should be easily findable and ready on the fingertips, that they can just choose one of the options. And then, is it credible? Your product should look credible and feel credible and come from the source that feels credible. So that means people are, if you have e-commerce on your shopping site, then making sure that it is secure, like SSL certificate, which will show a lock icon on the left top, right? HTTPS. So if, as soon as nowadays a lot of users have learned to look for the HTTPS, and if you don't have that, then you are not coming from an credible website. And then desirable, and the last one is accessible. And this, the reason why I highlight this is a lot of people are missing over here. A lot of companies, they just don't invest in this area. So it leaves a gap, and that gap could be a lawsuit that could come to the company. But that's a topic for another day, as Kathy had mentioned earlier. So how the desired results are achieved with user experience, right? There's so much, and this is the overall view, right? So if you look at the 20,000 foot view, you're saying interaction design is one of the major key components, which are the features that your products and services will have. But there is architecture, and there is architecture from, if you're creating a web application, the architecture could be a software architecture, which will have the user interface and user experience aspect, and then services layer, which will talk to the backend and have a 3-tier architecture or something like that. But UX is 1/3 of the architecture area, right? Then the information architecture, which is the information that is laid out on the website, how easy it is to understand, how easy it is to navigate, how is it overwhelming information, or is it the information that is easily understandable, right? And then the design, the visual design aspect, the human factors, and then like sound design. Sometimes we have, when you get a mail, there is a sound, or a text message, there is a sound. So even that has to be designed, right? Any questions so far? So we looked at what UX is from the higher perspective, but how to go about creating it, right? So user-centered design is where we do the analysis first. We understand the requirements, where IIBA is a specialization group of business analysts, and most of the time business analysts are doing the analysis if there is a bigger company. However, there are companies that don't have funding for having a business analyst, and also having a user experience designer, and also having somebody who could understand the product, right? So you might be a product owner or product manager who are stepping into the analysis role, who is also stepping into the design role, right? So at that particular junction, you don't have a flexibility saying, oh, this is only for business analysts. So you are the business analyst and you are the experience designer. So at that particular point, you are going to take the requirements, you're going to come up with some wireframes and prototypes. You'll design that, and you will test, which is evaluation and test. And once the testing has passed, the evaluation has passed, from the design to evaluation to the implementation. So if you are lucky, your cycle goes like in the red one. So you went from analysis to the design to evaluation to implementation. But most of the time that is very rare. That means if, and it shouldn't happen like this also. If it happens like this, that is very, very rare, 1 out of 100, something like that, because nobody is putting a hat of uh, something going wrong. So you're only looking at like you have, and somebody has to, not one, it's design when you show up to the users and stakeholders, when they give ideas and suggestions, that's great thing, because they are stepping outside of their box of comfort zones, and then they are giving suggestions to improve the experience. So maybe not everything can be done, but you can still, once you evaluate it, you can go back to the design and can make something better. Then there could be other places where you might go back to the requirements and say, hey, according to our requirements, this was our understanding, but uh, then they can reevaluate on the requirements as well, right? So even if the implementation, there are user experience issues, you have to go back to the evaluation and design, and then keep the implementation back, do the implementation again. So user experience is not just one of these areas. It's like research in the analysis. It can also go into research. It can go into the information architecture. It will go into usability, interaction design, visual design, and the content, right? So when it is focused with touching and making sure every of this, if you completely miss off, let's say, information architecture, then your navigation is going to struggle. Your structuring is going to struggle. The sitemap is going to struggle. But if you took care of it, you might not have to go to the in-depth of doing everything, the information architecture. It's almost a subfield in the user experience. You might not have to go and do that, but you would have 80–90%. And in reality, this is the 80% chances of the user experience being so good, that 80–90%, that now that you have taken care of all this, in some way or form, like even if you have done a little bit of research, because in reality, we don't have time to do 100% of everything in the user experience. So we all live in deadlines economy. Economy is, and everything is built with deadline, right? I rather go with a lifeline economy, where everything is going to go live rather than going to go dead. So I like lifeline rather than a deadline better. But the actual fact nowadays is the deadline. So with all of that, making sure you're stepping into each of these areas, covering them as to the best knowledge as possible. Again, making sure the experience is taken care of. And when you're focused on the experience with some focus on all these areas, the experience is going to have much appreciated. And this is your level of satisfaction, not the level of satisfaction for the, if your level of satisfaction is at the 80% level, that means you are going to meet 99% level for the users most of the time, because you have done 3 options for each design, and you have done your analysis, you have been diligent, and you have done all of the research and all of these areas. So UX design cuts down the development cost as well. The more time your company spends on the user research, on the information architecture, on wireframes, prototype, and visual design, the less time they have to spend on redoing the code. If not, the code has to be done more and more times. So nowadays, companies are doing agile implementation. With the agile implementation, designers and developers are working hand in hand. Most of the time, designers are working 1 sprint ahead. So they are making sure the designs are ready before the development team is ready to develop them. And that has been working very well for a lot of organizations, even with the highest scale of implementations, with people with hundreds, 200s of people implementing a system. That agile approach has still been working for them. So the role of a UX designer is spending time on redesigning, polishing the app, and also meeting the needs and wants. So once the needs are met, we go to the wants, right? So user experience is not just thinking about the UI and what the UI looks on the front. That UI, what you are looking at, is just one of the many areas. So UI has design and technology behind it, which has behind that there is science and research. So if you understand, let's say you are creating a product in the healthcare services, that product in healthcare services is based on the research that the user experience designer or researcher is going to talk to the doctors and nurses and whoever it is. And then there is the science aspect comes to words as it's neuroscience, neurological, and it's linguistic. It's making sure the experience is much more easier. For example, if you use TurboTax, the tone of the TurboTax is so friendly and it is so assuring because they have done the science of what terminology can be used so that the user, each screen they have carefully crafted with the user experience, and the wording that they have done is carefully designed, and because they went into the science and research and made sure that is done. If you have used other products where they just did the UI without doing the design and technology and research, then they would have become the shipwrecks at the bottom because they don't know that UI is just the tip of the iceberg, but there's so much to navigate, and user experience is all of this to help. And when carefully done user experience is taken into consideration, then the designers, it's the designer's job to do all this research, linguistic typography, styles, and everything, design and testing, that it avoids the iceberg and nicely navigates without having to worry about user experience is going to suffer or something like that. Any questions until now? So user, as we talked earlier, is a person, people, population, anything. It could also be a system. We kind of hinted out in the earlier slides. In this system, it could be an application, system to system, connection, system to system, not only connection, but messaging and the protocols that these systems need to do. Because when you press submit on your UI screen, there are so many things that are going on and on and on. Cliff or Kataya, looks like there are questions on the chat. Can somebody read
Just
it out?
two came in.
Okay, yeah. Can somebody read out the question for me, please?
Sure. Shirley actually has several questions for you.
Okay.
What tools and techniques used in each process?
The user experience design process. Okay. It could be wireframes. For wireframes designing, there are tools like Balsamic or Axure. There are prototype creation, Axure, InVision, Sketch, and so many UX tools that are available in the market where you can almost create a prototype without a single line of code, and then you can show it to the user where it is so much like how the real product would look like. So Balsamic is one tool. Axure is another tool. For testing user experience, you can use usertesting.com. That's another tool. There is Moray. That's another tool. Then there is InVision and Sketch. So these are the top tools. So the next question.
How should I conceptualize, learn how to read, the relationships between user stories and UX?
Perfect. Let's hold on to that question. We are going to talk about personas, and we are going to talk about the one of the slides coming into that. So that if the question is not answered until the end of the session, then feel free to ask that question again. So I would like to discuss that in the future slides.
Okay.
The next one.
Do you have any suggestions for overcoming developers who are not open to UX?
Yes, I am a developer who has morphed into a UX developer, and I'm an architect as well. So I know the friction. I have been working with the friction. Again, this friction is not only with the product and services, right? You will have so much friction with the developers and management, and sometimes UX role by itself is a very, very tough shoes to be in, because everybody can comment on it, but designing, not everybody can do unless they practice. I mean, everybody can design it as well, but unless they have exercised their brain of how to design products and services, how to make the life of the user better, right? So when a UX designer comes up with the wireframes and prototypes, developers are going to have huge friction. It's because of the uncertainty that they have. The uncertainty that comes up because there is huge amount of challenge sometimes, and they don't know how to achieve it unless they spend some time researching on prototyping on, let's say, a new feature that UX designer has introduced. That feature is designed in such a way with using new controls, new components. This developer has not even used that. So the developer, I've been a developer myself, and I've hidden my insecurity. So I rather comment on, oh, this cannot be done or this can be done. But there are developers who have, and I had to step out from my development comfort zone and come to the objective thing and start looking at, okay, let me take it as a prototype. Let me research on that. Let me work on a small thing. If it works on the small thing, that concept, if it works on the small thing, the new control, then I can apply it on this big application. So what the challenge is to work with the developer and assure them that it is not about their skill set. It is not about them getting fired, that they are not going to be able to do that, because the fact that they have been with the company for so many number of months or years is already a testament that the company likes them. It's just that let's evolve the product and service, and taking a little bit of time for research is okay. And then convincing the management. Now the UX role is like, it also has the empathy, as I said, not only for the products and the users, also empathy with your colleagues, that is your developers. And now the management is going to come and say, oh, why is it going to take 5 days extra? Now UX designer's role is to explain that this is a challenging control or a component that I have developed, and to have this developed, the developer needs to research. We haven't used this in our company before, and we have to test, seeing if there are existing controls outside in the marketplace. If there are controls that are free, they can research that and implement that. And there is a learning curve, any control or anything. So there's a huge amount of learning curve. I've worked in a UX team for years, and one of my role was to help developers implement charts, gauges, and controls, grids, and everything, right? With the designers, what the designers were doing, I was the bridge for them. And when I created these prototypes of code where they can take that code and understand the code and implement in there, that's when the developers felt very much appreciated, because they don't have time to do a lot of research as well. So there is somehow either the UX team needs to have an engineer who can develop the code prototype as well. So the actual enterprise engineers can work on the enterprise applications. So hopefully that answers the question. And there is a negotiation that needs to be done with the management, with the developer, and with the users, that hey, this feature that you loved, we can provide it, but it will take X number of days for us to, first we'll research it in 2 days. So it's also not a shame that if some design that a UX designer has created and the developer tried all, 1 or 2 developers tried it, and they tried and they exhausted the resources, that it is no longer, they don't think it is possible to do it. So then going back and changing the design, not taking, like, again, it goes back to the 3 options I suggested, not marrying to one design, coming up with another design, right? Sometimes there is reality versus vision and design. Hope that answers the question. Next.
Okay, we got some more, but let's continue on and we'll
Yes, perfect.
catch up.
So UX has been divided in to 2 fields: customer experience or client experience, and the user experience, because the UX has, as you have seen, has been growing up and up and up and up a lot more. So as we said, what UX is, how the user feels about interacting with the product, right? That's the user experience. But customer experience or client experience is how a user feels about interacting with the brand, like iPad or iPhone or Mac, right? So that's the basic difference. So now, most of the time we concentrate on the products and services, right? Because we are working on one product. But there is brand experience where they want to ensure consistent experience across different products, like Microsoft Office. There's an experience of Office that they want to make it consistent across Word, PowerPoint, and everything. That's what you see with the ribbon, right? Same thing with iOS. Experience of installing an app and using an app or something should be same. So now that we understood UX and UX, let's get into the deeper meaning of UX. So user experience, in the deeper meaning, it's the friction, the amount of friction that a user has when using your product and services. So if you think that box, the big box, heavy box is your product, that the friction that the product will have when the user is trying to use it or drag it from A to B, it's huge friction. But this is where I see the UX role comes, and the developer's role to give that UX is going beneath the product and fixing 4 legs or even the sliders that are available, or creating something called sliders that can slide this product from A to B. So the user doesn't have to exert so much of force. So it's the removing of that friction or minimizing it to the lowest level, the friction. The other thing you can also think of, brain is a supercomputer or quantum supercomputer that is parallelly processing a huge amount of information in milliseconds and nanoseconds. So the brain has to process all the information, right? So in the deeper meaning of user experience is avoiding the brain to process unnecessarily, avoiding it to process too much information. These are the CPU cycles. Let's say the brain is doing a lot more work than the user experience designer has not been successful yet in designing a better user experience. So if we look at this website, download button is right, green button, easy. As soon as you go, you can click on it and download it. But think of it that they put some image and they put some text wording and they moved the button way bottom. So people coming in will not see a download button, and there are a lot of users that will miss. So that is introducing something called friction in that scenario. And over here also, there is a button that used to be there. And now that there is so much automatically save happening. That means the development team has figured out as soon as you enter, everything is saved. So don't need of a save button. Now that your users have got used to that save button on the top or bottom, and then you introduce some friction over there. So there is sometimes people think they are introducing awesome feature by removing a save button or moving the button down, or they are by automatically saving, they are introducing a innovative technology, but they are actually introducing something called friction and did not make users happy, right? So there are multiple types of friction. The first one is cognitive friction. This is one of the most important friction points. And then there is emotional friction, and we are going to talk about them. The third one is physical friction. And the fourth one is introductory friction, which I call. So cognitive friction, I'm going to give you 2 slides. And since I am not monitoring the chat, if somebody wants to answer the question, which one has less cognitive friction? Cognitive friction is not letting the users process too much information at one glance or one side, or with one screen or one application. So too much processing is going to introduce cognitive friction. So let's do a quick test, and have your microphones unmuted. Whoever wants to say it out loud, you can say. I'm going to show 2 pictures for 2 seconds each and tell which one has more cognitive friction. Or let's reframe the question. Which one has less cognitive friction? 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay.
First one.
First one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you understand cognitive friction. It took 2 minutes of your life to understand what cognitive friction is, right? And it's the elegance. It's the spacing, and it's all of that experience. And this one is, it feels like so much of information flowing back and forth, and the brain has to process so many colors, so many shapes, so many angles and everything, right? So let's go to the next one. Again, unmute everybody. Let's do the software test, cognitive friction test in the software. You can unmute yourself, and we are going to go there. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Which one has lowest friction? Which one has lowest friction?
The first one.
The second.
The second
one.
Yeah, second one. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, perfect. So second one has the lowest friction versus this one. And when there is cognitive friction, and these are the examples in your applications and platforms, right? Products. It's slow performance, lots of complaints, increased complexity, difficult to use. There's a lot of visual noise. All fields are shown by default. Navigation helpers are not available. So all this, you could see, all fields show by default. There is no navigation helpers. There is so many issues over here. Brain is unnecessarily processing too much of information, and it's introducing cognitive friction. Whereas over here, there is so much less cognitive friction because brain cells, CPU cycles can relax. Everything has its place. There's navigation, there's content, there is easy navigation on the bottom, iconography, easy to realize, easy to click. So why should we care about the user experience, right? And if the user experience is awful, it's just a matter of time that product and service is going to be not used, because there are going to be competitors who are going to do much better with the user experience, and the company has to dissolve. So user experience is no longer a field that is optional. It is a mandatory field in any product or service any company wants to develop, because there is always a route from awful experience. At least if you cannot go to bad experience, at least you cannot go to excellent. You improve marginal improvement to the experience that users will rate it. Oh, it's still bad, but it's not as awful. Then they'll say, oh, it's average. It's not as bad. Oh, it's good. It's not as bad as before. And then going to excellent. So that has to happen. And then the company or products or services are going to evolve. So before iPhone has, current is this version, and I'm hoping in few years or decade, we'll just have a slate, which is a phone and everything or something like that. Hopefully that happens. But Apple did not come to here without, or not only Apple, but any smartphone. They would have had a different music players, or they came up with the iPhone after the iPod, and the evolution had happened. So even humans, we evolved from different species to human species. So evolution takes time, and so continuously evolving is a requirement. So continuum of design quality. Well, if you look at these pictures, you can see that the one on the right, people have been pressing the placard thinking that it is the button, but it was awful design at that particular point. But if a company has great user experience in mind, then they will have placard with the buttons just side by side, so even a blind user can use it. And then all this, so this is the evolution. So if you think products and services are this level, then now you know they can, which level they can reach to. And it is possible for everybody. It is just the investment of time, energy, and resources, and funding and people, right? So same thing, if you have a manual coffee maker that had too many things to be done with all these knobs and everything, nowadays you don't have to do it. You just have to put what coffee you put and then switch it on, right? So the reason why I keep bringing day-to-day life is, you see, I want you to start paying attention to the design more and more each day. And when you purchase a product, even for your own self, for your house, even a car, look at the user experience of that product. So would you buy this product versus this product, right? So it could be time saving. So the challenge is, let the users reach their goal without having to jump through the hoops. So if the user has to jump through they know your product and service does that, but they have to rely that they have to go through some pain before having to reach the goal. That doesn't necessarily mean you have succeeded. You have a lot more way to go for the products and services. And this should never happen for the users, where when they are starting, when the way to get started with user experience is to avoiding the pitfalls, or avoiding these kind of scenarios where the traps that the user thought they are doing the right thing, and actually they were doing the right thing, and somehow your system did not understand it, and somehow it could be defects, or it could be bugs, or it could be traps that the users will not like at all. So getting started with UX, right? Let's start with what I call as a game, myths and pitfalls. We will start guessing this game. So this is the second key area. Until now, we have looked at the top one key area, which was user experience and friction. Now we are looking at, these slides will go a little faster because it's one myth at a time and one pitfall at a time we are going to just say. So it's like a guessing game. Guess what the myth is, right? You can unmute yourself and then we will figure out which is the myth and which is the truth, and which is the fact, and weighing the fact versus the myth. So whenever you guys are ready, just unmute yourself and then let's get started and let's break these myths so hard that. So first one, can anybody guess what this myth is?
Amount of clicks matter.
Yes, yeah, so that is a myth. Clicks doesn't matter. What matters is if the cognitive friction is low, emotional friction is low, then the clicks are not going to matter. So we talked about the cognitive friction. What was the emotional friction is, I've been showing that right from the start of this session. I've been saying about iPhone so many times. Why? The reason was also to show about the emotional friction, lowest emotional friction. So it's emotional attachment. When the emotional friction is at the lowest, you get emotionally attached to your product and services. So the reason why iPhone kept on coming and it will keep on coming is a demonstration of my emotional attachment, which is emotional friction is at the lowest. Then the third one is the physical friction. We talked about the save button at the top of the screen when filling that form. And when you have to scroll down to bottom and you filled up all of the fields, but there was no save button. The save button was on the top left corner. So then you have to go back to the top left and then go back and click on the save. So that's physical friction. Anything that you have to do on the screen, which is not then and there available. So that's why nowadays you see edit button right there on LinkedIn or any place, rather than going to account settings, edit my profile. No, they just give you edit button right there, right? So avoiding the physical friction. And then the introductory friction is when you are scared to use an application or product, right? Let's say somebody showed you Cash app and you say, hey, you can transfer your cash from one app to one person to another person. So there might be an introductory friction, and I had that. So when my colleague was selling cookies, I said, yeah, I want to give you, but do you have Bank of America account? I said, no. Can you use Cash App? And no, I never used the Cash App. Then he took time for showing a Cash App to me and showing how it is easy to use. So I instantly installed it, because I would have had introductory friction if he said go install a Cash App and then go do it by yourself. Then I would not have done it. I'd rather write a check, right? So he did it. He had the app and he showed me how to do it. So it's like being even in the technology field, sometimes we do have introductory friction. So not everybody is going to be an early adopter. So that's when we have to carefully manage the introductory friction, make it so easy that people will start liking it and loving it. So guess what this myth is? Second myth. You can unmute yourself. Yeah. So it is, let's fill up the white space. There is a lot of white space there. So let's fill it up. So the woman is filling up the white space, right? So that happens in the applications. When we deliver applications, there's a lot of white space, and designers sometimes leave that for a reason. And users are going to ask, hey, let's fill up here. There's space here. Let's fill it up here. And no, that's not needed. That's a myth. So guess what is this myth?
These are hard.
I was thinking the same thing.
Technology is bad? I don't know.
No.
You spend too much time?
Yeah.
That scrolling is better? I don't know.
You got it. Scrolling is bad. So that's a myth. So as you've seen, you and I use this scrolling each day with the mobile phones without having any friction. And then we use the mouse scrolling, right? So scrolling is not bad when somebody says scrolling is bad. So this is where we say, as long as the emotional friction is low, physical friction needs to be low. And then, so the scrolling becomes bad when they have entered 100 fields on the form and they are at the bottom and you did not give them the next button or save button. The save button is at the top. That's when it feels bad. But again, it's a design flaw, not scrolling flaw. Scrolling is still perfect as long as there is no cognitive friction. So let's get this myth. I think more choices. This one is difficult because when you start giving more and more choices to the user, users are going to get confused, and it should be like a piece of cake for how the baby, it should be as easy. And this one, can you get the message? She's saying it. Users make good choices, or like make good choices. So she's saying it to her child, like make good choices in the school, right? But we are thinking that users are going to make good choices. That's a myth. We have to lead them to make good choices. And then, and that's easy to guess, right? I want, the users are going to ask, we want this, but we can give them what they want, but they have to take what is needed first. Because once you started to give them more and more, their plate is going to be full. And are they going to be happy? No, right? So what is this myth?
Excuse me, on this note, it is also important that sometimes they ask about something, but they really need something else, right?
Yes, correct. That is because they ask in a different way, right? They ask, we need to go from Orlando to, let's say, Atlanta. We need to go in X number of hours. And then, so that doesn't necessarily mean they're asking us to all drive there. We have other options. We can fly, we can drive, we can go by train, we can. So this is where users don't have to worry about how we are going to take them. They have to just tell, where are we going to fly to? Atlanta, from Orlando to Atlanta. So that's how it is. Yeah. So guess what is this myth? So I have installed blinds on my house. We bought this house 1.5 years ago. So I always struggle like this family guy where for me, blinds are very, very difficult to operate. So I've spent extra every blind is $120 for me, but it's just push up cordless blind. So easy to use. Just push it up and pull it down. So that's what we call as usability. So usability is greater than beauty. No, that's a myth. If you have a beautiful, usable site, that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't have to look beautiful. So that's it. Usability is not greater than beauty. You should have both. Guess what is this myth? So,
like if there's too much stuff on the screen, the loading takes a long time?
No, there's a clue over here. And
crap in, crap out.
I don't
know. Yeah, I think this is a copy, right? So let's copy how Google did it, how Amazon did it, how Microsoft, all these guys. So let's say Google did a Google screen like that. So you say, oh, let's have search as the center, and it might not work for your enterprise application. just having search at the center, right? And it will not work for your enterprise application to have a mega menu. Maybe it will work, but maybe it will not, like Amazon. So they have spent billions of dollars, so let's copy them. No, it's not necessarily a right, it's not necessarily going to work for your products and services. Then UX, what is this myth? This one is, we finished the UI, let's ship the product, let's UX the UI and ship it. It's like, let's consider UX as a product, sorry, let's consider UX as a step in the product development. UX is not a step in the product development. UX is the experience of the product, is start to the end of the product development, or even before the start. So never consider user experience as just one step in the process. It's the process. It's from the 0 to 5. If you wanted the user experience should be involved right from the ideation to production of the application. So avoiding pitfalls is also a great way to start with the user experience, and we will go through few pitfalls, like 7 pitfalls. So when we carefully navigate users to avoid these pitfalls, they're going to be happy. Oh yeah, that's how the user experience leads the way for the users, where these pitfalls are either not, if they are available, they are not visible. They don't have to fall. They can still make the journey. If the user falls in one of the pitfalls, the users are going to give you a lot of good recommendations, which I mean sarcastically. So this pitfall is making like applications that look like Excel sheet on the website. So if you're trying to provide an Excel sheet, why not use an Excel sheet rather than creating a grid with 10,000 to 50,000 records, and no user is going to spend that time. There should be other mechanisms to give them that information. That's pitfall number 1. Other pitfall is showing the technology to the user. 404 error. What does 404 error mean to the user? Nothing. You just have to explain. And I've seen so many beautiful 404 pages. That means resource is not found, the page is not available. They came to your domain, but the domain doesn't have that page or anything. But that's thinking even about your 404 pages means a great user experience. And you can be innovative. I've seen innovative pages where they have rockets or good icons and everything. The pitfall 3 is making users think like a DBA. This is the customer table or order table or something like that. So they need to understand the screens like, oh, our customer screens are like this, orders are here, or this or that. We need to tie it to them. We need to make that seamless. And then having a messy UI, which will have so many icons, and where are you starting? At the 90% of the screen is taken, and last 10% is where you are only able to. So, but Microsoft has evolved from something like that to something like this, right? Or processing. So this one is hugely successful. But when they introduced this, a lot of people were used to clicking around the big menus, and they did not know where the options were. They have researched it, and they found that in 2007 or before they introduced this feature of ribbon, they found that 90% of, or so 70% of the users' requirements were already built into the product. So they didn't know how to navigate it. So the design team take it to the heart, and they came up with this ribbon design, which has been now in production for 13 years, and it's still going strong. That means they really solved the problem. If something is lasting for 13 years, then it has definitely met the needs. But there was huge introductory friction. Even I had introductory friction when it went to this one. And I said, wow, I can do this, this, this. But once I understood my context, everything is context based, that once I select this image, there will be a picture format context, and then I can go into that. So not everything is available or ready to be clicked like this. And this is going to be confusing, right? This is much better. And this is the evolution from 0 out of 5 to almost 4.5 or 5 out of 5, if you want me to be generous. Then avoiding bad designs, right? Picture, you never see a picture and the text here, and this, at least this design doesn't exist in the marketplace. But the fact that the screen exists makes me think this was something that was existing, where color did not have a meaning, and design was like that. And same thing with this one. We talked about this edge cases in the past, and we asked, I told that if we start spending too much time on end users or edge case users, users that have the users that need too much functionality, that they want everything to be done, there needs to be a different innovative idea to give them a different access points and let them do what they do, but not cluttering the existing user experience for edge cases and super users. Sometimes they might be the stakeholders and they are the sponsors, but still you are working for the end user. Yes, you want to make your stakeholder happy, but your end user is bigger goal, and you will give them a different route. It's like giving them a different page or different administrative page that they can have access to, or something like that, without having to compromise on the UI or the user experience for that, right? Then there are so many challenges when user experience designer comes, or not just one person, it's a team. So it's a collaborative effort. You cannot expect a designer to do everything, and you cannot expect a developer to do everything. And even if you are a business analyst, you have to have empathy for both of them. And if you are a product owner, then empathy for all of so this, and we have to design it collaboratively, and not one person cannot think of 100 ideas, all 100 great ideas, right? So if you might have a great idea and the designer might accept, and the UX person, when they are listening to these ideas, some of them are great ideas, they can take that and design, come back and design with that. However, some of them can take it personally, and then they'll say, oh no, this is the better, and they'll try to argue the point, and they'll say, this is how it is done, and I'm the UX designer, I'm calling it. So that sometimes for me means that the designer is not trying to understand the other's perspective. They are just going by insecurity. So we talked about the insecurity with the developer earlier when I mentioned about how to work with developers insecurity. There are designers who have insecurities. So if a designer is showing all these challenges, then we have to work with that designer to overcome his or her insecurity. So this we see in applications and software as well. It sometimes becomes a rocket science for a platform application or something like that. But the role of information architecture or user experience architect is taking this overwhelming and making it so easy and so user friendly that it looks like a breeze. It's much more usable. But the challenge is trying to change the philosophy in your the principles in your company and organization. If the company is small, and trying to sell them this change is going to be challenging. However, if they are not innovating and if they don't have the better user experience, this is a brand that had for years and years of success, did not make a transition to the digital world, and the success is no longer available. That brand is no longer, nobody even talks about them these days, right? So that's when realizing the trends, realizing the power of digital technology, and investing in user experience technology, which is also process and people, is the best way. So when you realize you are being a change maker, trying to be a change maker than same sayer, right? So sometimes these two not align with each other. So same is going to be status quo. Change is going to bring a new perspective, new vision, new direction, new better enhancement and ideas. And now, especially being in this COVID-19 situation, it's better to start move from this to here and then say, these are the ideas, and keep giving ideas to your employers, to your products, and to anything. So don't stop the ideas coming. If they say, hey, don't stop sending us your ideas, it is too much, then that's when you stop it. But until that, keep giving the ideas, because one of those ideas, even if you give 10 ideas, 2 of the ideas are taken, that's worth for you to give that ideas. And yes, it's going to be hard when you suggest something people cannot understand it. You see a clear vision of how it's going to be simple, but they will not see your vision. They will see complexity. They will get confused. Why are you doing all this, or why are you trying to change all this experience like this? We've been doing this, and this is how we have done. That means they are not there yet. So now you have to coach them on the change, acceptance of the change, and how it will improve, and how you can give them the confidence that we can do it. It's not a single person journey, and never have to accept the credit by yourself. You can say, let's do it together. And it's a collaborative ideas that we have developed. So now we are heading into the third and the last sector of design principles, which probably I have 10-15 minutes.
Do you want to stop and take the rest of the questions? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, can someone read out to me?
Cliff,
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Sure, I get to read, huh? Can you talk about any examples of where usability research approach was successful for you, and how did you sell it to your leaders?
Yes, that's a great question, because we have done a usability testing I used to work for Raymond James back in the day, and in the user experience team. And so we came up with the funds transfer. That means moving from your account to another account. And there were screens that we have developed or designed, actually, in fact. And then we called 15 clients. These clients are millionaires, or sometimes they don't have time, but they made time, and we gave them some small gift of $100 or something. We made them sit through the experience, and we asked them the questions of, how are you going to do this? How would you initiate a funds transfer? And how do you think, like, what does this screen mean to you, or this? So we asked them open-ended questions. We asked them to think out loud, and they think, once they said it out loud, that gave us a lot of flaws in our designs. We went back to the design, and then we improved the design so much that that functionality exists now after 10, 11 years, still exists on the website. I still have the access as a client to the website, and then I still see the functionality. And whatever we have done with the user experience in mind, our user experience team, 70% of that still exists after 11, 12 years. So doing the usability testing, which of a specific feature, and doing the user testing of a specific application itself is going to give great value. The next question does it answer the question? If not, type in the next question if you want to follow up the question with that. Cliff, you can go with the next question.
Cliff, you might be talking on mute.
Yes, I certainly am. Let's see here. Would you classify UX requirements as functional or non-functional?
UX is 100% functional, 100%, because anything, even in our current Agile thought, we do has to have UX. UX and functional requirements go hand in hand, and each functional requirement that has a front end can be illustrated by UX. So never consider UX as the performance aspect of the application is non-functional requirement. The performance has to be fast, right? You cannot click on a button and wait for 20 seconds. You need, that's a non-functional, but the user, which also is a small part of user experience, but the whole experience of functionality, clicking on the button, filling up the wizard and having navigating in the application, everything goes as functional requirement. Yeah. Next question.
Oh, and I think this one is kind of reiterates one of the other. How do you convince managers of the importance of UX and get their buy-in? That's something we all run into.
Yes, yeah. I think we mentioned about the empathy and also using the empathy and using the creativity of how we can improve. So managers have to see what is in for the company. They are not asking what is in for me. They are saying what is in for this. Like, why do we have to do this change? And to do this change, you have to give them tangible answers that they can say, we can increase 20% of our user base by making it accessible. So let's say accessibility is not in your websites or web applications. You say that the 20% or 25% of the US population has some kind of disability. So we might have increased the sales by having accessible websites, and we give them as we market as accessible websites. So users could also, who are blind, deaf, low vision, anybody can start using your website. So there is a lot of areas that you have to think through how you can put it in such a way that it is they can see a benefit of improving the user experience. Because if the users see betterment of the applications and products, the users are also going to appreciate it. The increased loyalty will be there, and there is no way that they are going to be they are going to be unhappy about your betterment of the product, because you are giving them more functionality and making them more happier, more productive, more satisfied. Yeah. The next question. Okay. Cliff, I think you are on the mute.
Yep. I'll read it. I don't know what's happening with Cliff, but the next one is, what is a good starting point within the research and analysis phase?
The good starting point is the ideation. So as soon as, so this is what I've done in my career. I was in a business high-level executives meeting, and they talked about an idea. As soon as they did the idea, they didn't even ask me anything to do anything, or they just involved me in that idea phase. I went and started doing my research, like how can I make a product that will be looking similar to our family of products, at the same time bring innovation, and at the same time give them the functionality. So I did that and showed them the wireframe, and they start liking it. Then I went to the HTML, CSS, and made them a real web application. Not the 100% functional, but it's still a prototype. Then they were able to take that and start showing it to the clients proactively, because this came from a client meeting, and our internal executives had a meeting with us, and proactively going and doing something without being asked, and showing them different ideas, because your mind, everybody's mind is like a torpedo. Once you say, I want to generate some ideas for this particular application, your mind is going to start generating different ideas, rocket ships, and it it will only stop when the idea has been accepted, and there is going to be either the project is not canceled, or like your ideas are not going to stop. You will start coming up with so many different options. And I said, show them 3 options. So once you start showing them the 3 options in the research, so you have to understand the requirements from the earlier stages, like not just what they ask, right? Because you have to analyze what they need first. So is the needs meeting first, then giving the wants, and then adding innovation on top of it. That would become a wow application for them. And wowing is your team's work is more for the satisfaction of the self, which is the UX team or development team or anything. So once you are satisfied, it's guaranteed that the users are satisfied. It's guaranteed, because you are doing from the higher level of designing, and you are looking from 10,000 feet view. You're coming to the 0 feet, and then you are still doing and going back to that. So there is no question that if you are satisfied, there's no way that they are not going to be satisfied, because so many ideas can be given and they will accept few of them. Yep. Next question.
I think the last one we got here is look and feel, consistent color schemes, styles, and so on are non-functional requirements. Okay.
No.
Yeah,
No, I don't. I disagree with it, and I respectfully disagree with it. Look and feel, style, fonts. That needs to be taken care, because it shows the polish. It shows there is a difference between a professional versus an amateur in the field, right? And your products and services, you don't want it to look like it is done by somebody in a garage, and or even if it's in a garage, as long as it's polished, it meets the needs and it meets the wants, then this is part of requirements. Styling, fonts, colors, everything is part of the requirement, except the non-functionals are security is also a requirement, because you don't want a greatly an application which has great user experience but does not have good security, has security flaws. The user experience might be great, the performance might be great, the security flaws is going to make the application fail, because nobody likes to compromise on security. Not even you and I, right? We rather not compromise on security by using that application versus an application that has better security. So that's still part of user experience, I think. So performance and user experience kind of slightly fall into the non-functional. Yeah. Next question.
that's it for now.
Okay, perfect. So I think the challenge of the time, we have to hold this design principles for next class.
I was going to agree with you. With 10 minutes or 9 minutes at this point, I don't want you to feel rushed.
Yes. So are there any other questions and concerns?
Yeah, we have about 9 minutes left, guys. If anybody has questions, comments that you want to mention.
Yes, if you have what I call as, if you have listened through all this session, do not miss the third one, which is the design principles. This is hugely helpful, and when you talk this terminology in your office, with your user experience team or anything, they are going to be surprised by your knowledge. This is the material that I have gathered. All this was based on experience, my own learning, implementing, and getting successful with this. So, and I've had challenged a lot of UX designers and architects in my life when sometimes they disagree and sometimes they agree, because not everybody knows all these design principles. Not even some people who call them as UX architects, they didn't have some of these basic knowledge. So these fundamentals are going to help you gain so much of grip on user experience that you can start, even if you are a BA, you can easily move to UX. The tools that we talked about earlier, and this nowadays standing out with in the job market is much more recommended. When you say I'm a UX BA, what happens there, right? You say to them that I can do user experience if your company needs user experience or don't have them, and then I can do a business analyst or product analyst. So to come to the user experience field, all you need to do is have, you don't even have to have creativity. You just have to be empathetic and be able to take criticism. And remember, criticism is constructive feedback. It's just that the other person is not able to see your point of view, and you're going to that person few more times to get that approval of your design, and having 3 designs for everything. I'm repeating this, but this is the way I want everybody who understands user experience from me to follow. 3 designs coming to 2 designs to 1 design. So then you get the best of the best. Yeah. Next question. Looks like there were.
I think that question is more for us at the IIBA.
Okay.
Michael, that's a good question. I never submit CEUs, so does anybody know how to submit your CEUs? I think you just have to say like the time and the date that you went.
I know how to submit them. The question is, the requirement is the local chapter is supposed to supply some sort of proof of attendance and contact hours, the duration of the meeting attended.
Okay, so Cliff can give you that.
Oh, I just got volunteered for something, didn't I?
You did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Michael just needs like proof that he showed up for these 2 hours.
How do we do that?
I mean, if you want to send the contact list from your IIBA email. No one's ever asked us this before, Michael. Sorry.
Yeah. I think if you can take the screenshot of the Zoom and the Zoom start and end time that was published on all of the channels.
The meetup. Yeah.
Yeah.
True,
Yeah.
you could do that, Michael. Your name is definitely there.
Okay, thank you.
Very good question, though. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. Does anybody have any other final questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you so much, Harish. That was very, very good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And we'll definitely talk about doing another session potentially in June.
Mm-hmm.
If not, we'll set up something after that.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for spending some more time online. I'm sure you're doing it all day at work right now, so it's a little bit of a challenge to keep staying on the computer, but we appreciate you coming.
Looks like there was one more question or something in the chat. Maybe that's different.
Yes, everybody's saying thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you listening, and this is a near and dear topic to me, along with accessibility. So anytime UI, UX, and user interface, reach me on LinkedIn, and I can help you even convince your management. I can help you convince your management if your management is not in the right area. I have convinced CEOs also in the past, so no worries.
It's like a superpower.
Yes, yeah, because nobody wants to say no to increased business and increased loyalty and increased sales productivity, right? And this is what we are going to prove to them, that it's going to happen by investing in UX and collaborative designing.
True. Very true. Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a good night.
All right.
Good. Have a great
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night. Thank you.